The Indigo Rebellion. This video is brought to you by Unacademy in association with GyanCentral.com. So the Rhodes were oppressed, and this was not only because they had to pay high rents, but also because they had to grow a cash crop called as indigo, which was not even a food crop for their survival. Due to the problems, all of them rose against the planters. In fact, by March 1859, thousands of Rhodes in Bengal refused to grow indigo and pay rents to the planters. The Rhodes even attacked indigo factories, armed with just swords and spears, bows and arrows. The women turned up to fight with pots, pans, and kitchen implements. Not only that, those who actually worked at the factory were boycotted. Now, back in those days, the planters did not collect the rent from the peasant directly. They had agents who were known as Govastas. So whenever a Govasta came to collect the rent from the peasant, they were heavily beaten up. Now, just to oppress the indigo peasants, the planters employed people like lathials. Who are lathials? They were the lathi wielding strongmen. By lathi we mean a very hard stick which is often used to bully the peasants into growing indigo. The Rhodes swore that they won't be bullied by the lathials. So rebellion was in air. But now the question comes, how did the oppressed actually rise up in rebellion? Because we don't get many chances to see that, do we? Now usually the oppressed doesn't easily rise up in rebellion until and unless they have a certain cause, some sort of a support, some sort of an inspiration that made them rise up and fight for their rights. So what were these reasons? First of all, we are talking about the time which was around 1859, which was immediately after the Great Revolt of 1857. This Great Revolt of 1857 had opened up people into revolting against the wrong. So that kind of gave the oppressed a certain inspiration to rise up and demand their rights. Now, by 1859, the Rhodes also felt that they had the support of the zamindar. Now this happened because in some places the zamindars went around in villages urging Rhodes to resist the planters. Now first of all, the zamindars did this because they were angry at the rising power of the planters. The zamindars were also unhappy of the fact that they were forced to give their lands on long leases. The second support that the peasants got was from the village headmen. Now the village headmen were angry that they were forced to sign contracts on behalf of the indigo peasants, and they mobilized the indigo peasants and fought many battles with the lathials. After the revolt of 1857, the British government was particularly worried about the possibility of another rebellion. So owing to this, the lieutenant governor toured the region. Now the Rhodes thought that the tour was a sign of government sympathy for their plight. Now, one of the reasons that led the Rhodes to believe such a thing was that the magistrate in West Bengal issued a notice saying that the Rhodes won't be forced to accept the indigo contracts. So, what happened was that the peasants thought of it as Queen Victoria's declaration that indigo need not be sown. But in reality, Eden was just trying to placate the peasants and control an explosive situation. So the rebellion, instead of stopping, spread even more. Now, as the rebellion spread, intellectuals from Calcutta came to the indigo districts and started writing about the misery of the peasants, the tyranny of the planters, and the horrors of the entire indigo system. So the word spread, and worried by this rebellion, the government started bringing in military forces to protect the planters from assault. Then the government decided over bringing in something known as the Indigo Commission. This commission was supposed to inquire into the entire matter and provide them with a solution. So the commission actually held the planters guilty and criticized them for the forceful methods that they employed for cultivating indigo. So it declared that the indigo production was not profitable for the Rhodes, but it also asked the Rhodes to fulfill their contracts, their existing contracts, but they had the option of refusing to grow indigo in the future. So now the rebellion was settled, but the indigo production collapsed in Bengal. But all the planters just shifted their operation to Bihar. Now, by the late 19th century, synthetic dyes also came into the picture. This severely affected their business, but somehow they managed to expand their production still. Now, by this time, Mahatma Gandhi was already famous. So, when he returned from South Africa, a peasant from Bihar's Champaran district persuaded him to visit the Champaran district and see the plight of the indigo cultivators there. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi's visit in 1917 marked the beginning of the Champaran movement against the indigo planters. This is significant. Why? Because this was the beginning of the Indian Satyagraha movement. The term Satyagraha was first seen in this very movement. Now, so far we have covered the peasants, the indigo cultivation, and the countryside problems under the British rule. So, now in our next video, we'll be covering the tribal life, how the tribals survived under the British rule.